Coming up on Tech News Weekly, it's me, Jason Howell, my co-host Mikah Sargent. We've got some great interviews for you. Imran Ahmed from the Center for Countering Digital Hate talks a little bit about targeted harassment that's actually hiding inside of Instagram DMs and what we can do about it. Owen Thomas from Protocol joins us for two stories, actually. It's kind of a supersized appearance. First, about the big news today that Elon Musk put in an offer to buy Twitter, and then also about the NFT of Dorsey's first tweet, also happens to be Twitter's first tweet, and the rapid decline in value of that NFT and what that means. And then finally, we round things off with Mikah's Story of the Week. CNN Plus off to a rocky start, but why exactly? All that and more coming up next on Tech News Weekly.
Podcasts you love
from people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This is Tech News Weekly, episode 230, recorded Thursday, April 14th, 2022.
This episode of Tech News Weekly is brought to you by Zentry Security. Remote work is here to stay. Zentry Security's zero-trust private access solution is a modern, cloud-hosted alternative to a VPN. Enhance your security posture today. Try Zentry Trusted Access with a 30-day free trial by visiting zentrysecurity.com/twit.
And by Podium. Join more than 100,000 businesses that already use Podium to streamline their customer interactions. Get started for free at podium.com/twit or sign up for a paid Podium account and get a free credit card reader. Restrictions apply.
Hello and welcome to Tech News Weekly, the show where every week we talk to and about the people making and breaking the tech news. I am Mikah Sargent.
And I'm Jason Howell. And I got to admit, my mind is like in a different place now. Right before the show, my brain was introduced to Maine Coon cats, which is a thing of these gigantic cats. So anyways, I'm going to reel myself back and get back into technology. But I am like blown away by this breed of cat.
Something that everyone listening can check out.
Yes, check it out, please.
You listen to the show.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people are familiar with, have maybe experienced online hate in public places, right? You've seen it in your comments, perhaps, or in replies on Twitter. But one place that folks might not be thinking about online hate is in the direct message area of these social media platforms. Well, the Center for Countering Digital Hate has been looking at these sort of off-the-grid places, these places that the public doesn't necessarily see, to track and understand not only abuse there, but maybe how companies could be doing more to protect folks there. Joining us today from the Center for Countering Digital Hate is the CEO, Imran Ahmed. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, happy to have you here. So I think before we get into this specific study, what I'd love to start out is by you explaining what the Center for Countering Digital Hate does as a whole. I think people need to hear about this center.
Well, we were set up 6 years ago in the wake of the murder of my colleague Joe Cox MP by a far-right domestic terrorist in the UK during the referendum. And ever since, we've been looking at the ways in which bad actors have weaponized what we've realized are bad platforms to create offline harm in our society and to act as a watchdog for the harms being created and suggest solutions for how we can make things better.
Excellent. Yeah, the study that I came across that I wanted to talk to you about centers around Instagram, which we have, I think all of us have heard a lot about the impact that Instagram has on young folks in particular, the power, so to speak, of Instagram as a whole. And it is something that I think folks may not have been considering is the stuff that takes place in direct messages there. So I was hoping you could start by talking about the hidden hate research that you folks have done.
So Instagram's a really important platform. It's a way in which we establish our brands, in which we, communicate, we express ourselves, we maintain relationships, we transact commerce. And in that respect, it's been studied quite a lot, the amount of sort of open hatred that there is on that platform and the effects that has on people. But what we kept hearing when we were talking to people was, you think it's bad in public, just wait till you see my direct messages. And we wanted to have a look at, well, is there a way at scale to look at the quantum of harms being created in direct messages? So how much hate is there? We worked with 5 very prominent women with millions of followers and analyzed 9,000 of their DMs over several months. And these women range from a magazine editor to the Hollywood celebrity Amber Heard. And what we found was that about 1 in 15 of the messages they got were hateful. But the real problem came when we actually started reporting that hate to the platform as though we were the women themselves. And we found that only in 1 in 10 instances was any action taken against people who were sending one-word misogynist hate, graphic sexual imagery, or death threats.
Wow. So was this that in those instances where the action was taken, was Instagram responding in direct? How did that look whenever the situation actually worked in that 1 in 10 instance?
So, Instagram promised in February 2021, they said that they recognized that DMs were an important vector for abuse. And that abuse is really impactful because it means that women don't want to go onto the platform. They don't want to log on. They don't want to see what's in their DMs. They might be missing out on business opportunities. They might be missing out on lovely messages from their friends because they don't want to have a look at what horrible people are saying on there. And what we found is that only in 1 in 10 instances did Instagram do what they said they would do, which is to ban people who are sending death threats, explicit sexual imagery, which of course shouldn't be allowed. Like if you break the rules like that, that is a kind of red card offense.
Mm-hmm. And one of the notes that you made in the blog post regarding this study is the fact that in some instances, you're not even able to make a report on or ask for action to be taken unless you view the message that the person sends. So you are required to expose yourself to whatever it might be in order to respond on the platform. Is this just, in your opinion, and in looking at this, is this just sort of a basic failing of Instagram in understanding how this digital hate takes place?
If you allow people to send unsolicited audio and video messages, which you can only assess as to whether or not they're from someone horrible or a friend by playing it, well, that is a system that's rife for abuse, especially because these can come as message requests, so not just from someone that you know, but from anyone. And the problem with that system is that they haven't built in safety by design. Now, how safety would work in a system like that is that you would learn very quickly that they take enforcement action, and that this is really about creating norms of behavior which are in favor of women and not in favor of abusers. At the moment, the norms that Instagram have established by virtue of their action they take rather than their rule. Their rules say this stuff is banned, but the actions they take talk louder than the words of their rules. And the actions are, you know what, if you send this stuff, we'll turn a blind eye to it because, frankly, we've got better things to do. Count our money, I think.
Mm-hmm. Now, you briefly touched on this, but I want to kind of get this directly. What do you say to the folks who say, well, there's a simple solution for this. Shut down your Twitter direct messages or your Instagram direct messages or your Facebook messages. Don't let people message you. When they say that to someone who is facing this abuse, what's your response to that?
Well, why should women have a second-class experience to men, or why should gay people or black people? And the reaction to this report has been, this has been featured in media all over the world. The Washington Post, New York Times, The Hill covered it on day one. And a lot of the journalists that I talked to said, me too. Like I get this all the time. And it shouldn't be acceptable that if women want to use these platforms, they receive a wall of abuse. Because the truth is that what it means is that the voices that we've worked hardest over the last decades, centuries to actually bring into public life, women, gay people, black people, brown people, people like myself, our voices are there is a tax being put on us being able to express our voices. And that tax is having to experience abuse and being gaslit by companies, being told it's your job to clean it up and we won't be there. We've put an alarm bell on the system. You can report things, but guess what? We haven't actually connected the alarm bell to an alarm in our headquarters, nor will we do anything about it when we see it.
Now, if someone hears about this report, reads this report, which we encourage everyone to go to counterhate.com to read it, what can they do to take action? What's a way for folks watching now or listening now to be able to say, you know what? No, I'm not okay with this. We need to make a difference here.
Well, there's a petition to be signed on our website, which has been signed by 26 leading civil rights organizations, not just women's organizations, but also organizations that campaign on race and on other issues. But also, look, in a couple of weeks' time, the guy that runs Instagram, Adam Mosseri, is being honored at the Met Gala for his contribution to, I don't know, popular culture. And in reality, what he's doing is rolling back women's involvement in popular culture by making sure they have to face a wall of abuse. How about when he's being honored, we all send him a quick tweet or a quick IG DM to say, Adam, is there any chance you could read this report and do something about it? Old bean.
Yeah, that's great action to take. Briefly, I was hoping you could mention some of the other research that the Center for Countering Digital Hate has done before we say goodbye.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've looked at a number of different harms, and I think we're most well known for our work on anti-vaxxers, the Disinformation Dozen, which President Biden cited last year when he said that 12 killers are spreading 65% of the disinformation that's being produced on social media. Our work looking at anti-Semitism, and we've got an upcoming report on anti-Muslim hate. But also we've got other work which has looked at other types of harms online. And if folks want to have a look, if they want to get involved, counterhate.com is our website, and @CCDHate is our Twitter, and @counterhate is our Instagram.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Imran. Of course, yes, head to counterhate.com. We'll have links there, and you heard the different social media accounts that you can follow. Thank you for your time, and thank you for what you and the Center for Countering Digital Hate are doing. We appreciate that.
My pleasure.
All righty, folks. Up next, there's a lot more Twitter to talk about. We'll get to that momentarily. But first, this episode of Tech News Weekly is brought to you by Zentry Security. Remote work, look, it's here to stay. When the pandemic started, offices emptied, and all of a sudden, everyone knew what a VPN was. The problem is that VPNs were designed many years ago for a much friendlier landscape, when the only threats you had to worry about were internet worms. They've certainly changed. Threat actors now specifically target remote workforces with sophisticated phishing attacks and exploit vulnerabilities in RDP. VPNs offer broad network-level access, allowing east-west propagation for authorized users and, well, unauthorized ones. Zentry Security is a perfect solution for small to medium enterprises. It allows only authorized users to access applications in the cloud and data center without complex VPN clients, without a whole lot of configuration, and without any headaches. Employees, contractors, and third parties, regardless of their location, only get application-level access to specific apps and resources based on globally applied natural language policies defined by IT admins. So, dispersed workforces get secure, streamlined access to only the applications they need to do their jobs, just using a browser on their preferred device. Every connection is encrypted end-to-end, reducing the attack surface and increasing your organization's security profile. Look, with that, everyone wins. Users are happier, everyone is more productive and collaborative, and IT has has a lot less to support. Enhance your security posture today. Try Zentry Trusted Access with a 30-day free trial by visiting our special link, zentrysecurity.com/twit. That's ZENTRY security.com/twit. Thank you so much to Zentry for sponsoring this week's episode of Tech News Weekly.
All right. Don't want today's show to feel too much like last week's show where we talked a lot about Twitter. But hey,
alas,
you know what? This is just the way the news is right now. And I had actually planned on talking about Twitter today initially. That plan obviously has not changed. But the original story had to do with the NFT, Jack Dorsey's original tweet. I thought it was funny and interesting. And then this morning happened. And now, of course, we have to talk about Elon Musk again. I'm sorry, but it's kind of a big deal. So it's just our luck that the guest that I had lined up has written extensively about this over the last week or two. Owen Thomas from Protocol, one of my favorite guests on TWiT. It's really nice to have you on Tech News Weekly. Thank you, Owen.
Jason, thanks for having me.
Yeah, right on. Thank you for hopping on and giving us a little bit longer of an interview space. We're going to start with Elon Musk because that's kind of like the big news today. And then we'll take a short break and then talk a little bit about the NFT and then let you go. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about Elon Musk if we haven't already talked about him too much on this network. Dang, I feel like the last couple of weeks at the top of every list of stories, his story rundowns. But this morning, Elon announced on Twitter, quote, "I made an offer," just kind of like putting that out there so succinctly and as if nothing happened. What exactly is his offer? How good is it?
Jason, I thought we had an agreement. We don't talk about Elon. We don't talk about Elon.
That should be the agreement, but I can't hold up to that.
Of course, I think the number one part of this story is that Elon loves it when you talk about Elon.
Yes, he does.
And that's why he's on Twitter. That's why he wants to buy Twitter.
Yeah.
It's a play for attention, but hey, we're living in the attention economy, so so why not? He is, he's definitely not known for his patience, so he's kind of jumped ahead, as he said, to the end game here. Yeah. And straight up made a hostile offer. Now, there's some debate over whether it's hostile. The definition really is that it's something made with the, without the permission or without coordination with the board of the target company, the target being Twitter here. So I think, it is kind of textbook hostile in that regard. There is a scenario where it becomes friendly. It doesn't seem from the tone of Musk's conversation that he has any interest in a friendly offer. The other thing that's kind of odd and different here is that normally with a hostile takeover, you have a corporation that wants to merge, with that, with the target company and get some assets that that it thinks will make its business better and it's worth the pain and expense of a hostile takeover. Or you have a take private transaction, but those are typically done with management, where management feels like, shareholders don't get it and they can do a better job and deal without the pressures of Wall Street by going private. This is like a mashup of those two. Elon thinks he has better ideas for Twitter and he thinks it would be better off private. So it puts Twitter in a very odd position. There's very little precedent for this kind of approach.
So what about numbers here? What is he offering? How does that compare to where the stock price, where the price was initially? And I kind of know this, but if you can tell everyone who's watching and listening, and how appealing is that to shareholders? Even if they don't like Elon, at a certain point, the price is high enough that I'm sure that's going to win some people over.
Right. So the 52-week high for Twitter is around, I think, a little over $70. Obviously, tech stocks took a beating this year, and it's way below that. Musk is offering a little over $54. So that's not really a winning price. If you look at the very recent stock history, I can see shareholders reasonably saying, hey, like for a takeover, can't you give me a little bit more of a premium here and take
Right.
me back to 70.
Right.
So if he's serious, he's kind of trying to lowball Twitter. I think Twitter's board has a pretty defensible position if they say that 54 is too low. I mean, I think where Musk and the board probably agree is that, like all of those parties think Twitter is undervalued. The question is, does Musk have a better plan, or does the really recently appointed CEO, Parag Agrawal, have a better plan? I mean, the board just named Agrawal's CEO in November. He's barely had time to implement any changes he wants to make. So,
No kidding.
there's another defense of like, hey, give us some time with the current management.
Yeah, I'm super curious. That's one of the things that that I've been reflecting on today is Agrawal's position in light of this. And it wasn't like he didn't recognize, it was just Sunday, in fact, when he made the comment, like, distractions ahead. He had a statement, keep on pace here. We've got some distractions coming up. I'm not certain that Agrawal knew, or maybe he did, had a good sense that Elon would go this route or quite so soon. But you had to imagine, poor guy, so new to this position at the company and dealing with something that would make all, tech CEOs crumble in the face of it. One of the world's richest men basically saying, hey, I just want to buy your company and here's all the cash to do it. It puts him in a really awkward position.
It certainly does. And, keep in mind, Agrawal was CTO of Twitter.
Yeah.
So, this is all like really new to him. That said, the chairman of Twitter, the board chair is Brett Taylor, the co-CEO of Salesforce, who has been through lots of transactions. Just bought Slack for, I think, north of $26 billion. So he is no stranger to kind of Wall Street power plays and big numbers. He's much lower key than Elon Musk, but not a pushover. And and it's a pretty strong board overall. Like there's there's not a lot of fluff. I think Twitter has actually improved its corporate governance in that regard enormously from like looking back a decade ago. Is that enough though to take on one of the world's wealthiest people? I forget the numbers. It feels like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk trade off who's wealthiest from day to day.
Exactly. No matter what, in top two, and compared to the entire world, that's that's pretty powerful in and of itself. Mark Cuban on Twitter seems to be put out a tweet alluding to the fact that his assumption is that now the big CEOs at all the other big tech companies are looking into their contacting their antitrust lawyers to say, hey, what about us? Why can't we buy Twitter? What kind of weight do you put into that? Why would they want to do that when faced with a Musk takeover of Twitter?
Well, if they want to run up their lawyer bills at $1,000 an hour, they certainly can. But I think those lawyers are going to pretty quickly say, are you kidding me? Are you insane? The mood in Washington right now, Lena Khan running the FTC. Yeah. I mean, there is no way that Meta buys Twitter. Now, also, Mark Zuckerberg did once called Twitter a clown car that fell into a gold mine, and he tried to buy Twitter before. There's still bad blood between Market Street and Menlo Park there. But Google, Amazon, Microsoft, which already owns LinkedIn, it's really hard to see any kind of scenario where DC doesn't just explode at the very idea. And there's also the reality that Twitter is very popular with politicians, and there is a laser beam focus on Twitter's moderation policies. Who wants all of that headache on top of what they're already dealing with?
Yeah.
There's the antitrust issues, and then there's just the politicization of Twitter, period.
Yeah, no kidding. One question that I have before we take a quick break, and then we'll talk about the NFT stuff after the break. But what kind of an impact do you feel the company would face if they pass on this offer? Like, obviously things get really, really kind of crazy and cuckoo if Elon Musk buys it, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe everything's going to be great, but that's where everybody's mind seems to be jumping right now is, oh no, what happens if Twitter gets bought actually by Elon Musk? But if they pass on it, does that have an impact on the company in your mind?
I think there's certainly probably going to be, as Agrawal put it, distractions ahead. There could very well be securities lawsuits. As I mentioned, those would have a really tough, it would be tough to show that like $54 is, really dramatically undervaluing Twitter compared to where it's traded very recently. But I think there will be pressure to perform, but there's always been pressure on Twitter to perform. Yeah. Zuckerberg was not wrong entirely about the clown car and the gold mine. Like, this has historically not been a company that's lived up to all of its promise. People see a lot of potential in Twitter, and its story has always been about falling short of that. So it doesn't really change that dynamic. I think if Twitter disappoints Elon Musk here, well, get in line, buddy. A lot of people have been disappointed by Twitter.
Right on. All right. Well, don't go anywhere. We're going to keep talking with you after this short break. And we'll talk a little bit about Dorsey's NFTs and kind of what's going on there. But first, this episode of Tech News Weekly is brought to you by Podium. If you own a business, you know that there are not enough hours in the day to waste playing phone tag with your customers, especially trying to get in touch with them, trying to, convey communicate your business to them. It's not easy, and you don't have the time for that. The list of customers that you actually need to reach doesn't get any shorter, especially when your business is going really well. That's why local businesses everywhere are turning to Podium. Podium actually makes every interaction as easy as sending a text. And I know for me, text is, I'm getting text on my phone. I'm guaranteed to look at it, right? Other messaging platforms, I might not see it. I might not look for it. I might not care as much. But text, you better believe I'm looking for it. So everything that makes your business great can get done faster when it's happening through text. Podium isn't just a better way to communicate. It's a better way to do everything. So gathering reviews, that's easy. Collecting payments, even marketing to your customers, all that's super powerful with Podium. Podium actually makes it all as easy as pressing send. And you're not just freeing up more time. You're going to grow your business. You're going to get more done. With Podium, you're going to close deals with customers before the competition actually has a chance to call them back. Incredibly powerful. Check it out for yourself. Join more than 100,000 businesses that already use Podium to streamline their customer interactions. You can get started for free at podium.com/twit, or you can sign up for a paid Podium account and you get a free credit card reader when you do that. Restrictions do apply. That's podium.com/twit. And we thank Podium for their support of Tech News Weekly. All right. So, Owen, we've still got you here. Got you here for about 8-ish or so minutes. Let's talk a little bit about NFTs, which was the initial reason that I reached out to you until everything got turned upside down. But this is still a really fascinating story to me because, just last year, Dorsey's first tweet on Twitter was sold as an NFT, kind of in the middle of that big wave of where everyone's like scratching their heads like, what is an NFT? And then there's the other crowd that's like, we already know, and we're willing to spend, $2.9 million for this tweet, and to not actually own it in any physical sense, but to own the NFT. That was just last year. First of all, who bought it back then, and why did they do that?
So it was a crypto entrepreneur named Sina Estavi, who paid $2.9 million, as you mentioned, for this NFT of a tweet. An NFT is like a digital receipt. It's supposed to be proof of ownership. You can't copy it or duplicate it. So it provides a little kind of scarcity in a world of digital abundance. But people still have trouble wrapping their heads around, does an NFT really signify anything? The NFTs that you're probably more familiar with are Bored Ape Yacht Club, where you get an ape and that ape is kind of recognizably yours, and different enough from all the other apes that you can kind of say, like, yes, this is the thing I own.
I own the one with a mohawk or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. It's a pointer to a JPEG, but it's, honestly, it's really about like everyone agreeing that, that you own this thing and, being able to get that buy-in. So what does an NFT of a tweet mean? I don't know, but Astavi paid $2.9 million for it. The punchline is that he is now trying to sell it, and the highest bid, I think, it's gone up a little. The bids were around $280. They went up to like $800. But I think the auction is closing or closed. The best offer he got was actually $10,000. The irony is like the interest around, the reporting around the fact that he hadn't gotten any offers have actually drawn some bidders in. So now Jack Dorsey's tweet is worth $10,000. I mean, is it worth $2.9 million? $280, $10,000, zero. It's worth whatever you get someone to pay for it.
Right, exactly. Right? At the end of the day, yeah. But value is what someone is willing to pay for it. And a year ago, that person was willing to pay $2.9 million for it. Now, not so much. Yeah, I just opened it up and checked it out, and what was it? Somewhere around, slightly higher than $9,958.18. So dramatic decrease, to say the least.
Now, Dorsey had amazing timing because, NFTs really kind of hit the mainstream around August 2021. He sold this in March. So, it was early. By the way, he is such a Bitcoin fanatic. NFTs are typically sold for Ether, which is the second biggest cryptocurrency. He is such a Bitcoin fanatic that he immediately converted the Ether proceeds to Bitcoin, and then he gave them to a charity that helps people in Africa give directly. So, he's kind of got clean hands. You can't really accuse him of profiting when he gave it all away to charity.
Right.
But he did seem to have good timing.
Boy, but I mean, in hindsight, great timing and great ambition to take that money that was created that literally didn't exist prior. It was just a tweet, and now suddenly it was worth this $2.9 million price tag, and funnel that into something that does some good. On the flip side, God, I can't help but just think that the person that spent $2.9 million, I mean, especially in light of today, right? Like that's a sucker, right? It's kind of like, cool. Well, he got that million and passed it along to charity. That's great. But he got that $2.9 million from you when it could be had, and now it cannot. What do you like? Does this signify something about the declining perception of value around NFTs in general? I mean, are we seeing this in other high value or once high value NFTs happening there too?
It really depends. I think, for example, Bored Apes have mostly seemed to retain their value. There's a lot of Hollywood hype. There's a movie trilogy now being produced with Coinbase backing it up. So it depends on the NFT, but overall transaction prices have been falling. And wallet activity, which is something we've been tracking. That's the number of people who have an NFT in their wallet who have bought or sold an NFT. That took a dip and has been on the rise again. So it may be kind of, into like a new, more moderate hype cycle. I don't think they're going away, but I think this is really a good test case for like, what kind of thing makes sense to turn into an NFT?
Yeah.
A tweet, which Twitter.com controls, which Elon Musk could could buy the company and he could delete the tweet if he wanted to.
Or make it private any number of things.
Yeah, that doesn't feel like a really like solid value, kind of to center an NFT around. I think that's probably why a lot of people have questions. So like the NFT of a tweet, probably not a great idea. NFTs of digital art, like art has always been very abstract in terms of the value we place on it and why people like one piece of art versus another. So that is probably a little more solid as the art market in general. is. So I think we'll find out which NFTs are really worth something.
Yeah. If NFT is here for the long haul, what are the assets that actually make sense, and that's, it's an emerging kind of developing technology / financial instrument, whatever you want to call it at this point. So those are all questions to be answered. For $10,000, do you find value in Dorsey's original tweet?
I think I would pay $2.80.
Okay.
Nice.
Could have started there.
No, I think, I think there is kind of like novelty value around that tweet.
I agree.
But
I print it out and get it framed and hang it on my wall, and I don't even have to pay anybody for doing that.
Exactly. That's precisely the problem. Is that there is not kind of like provable scarcity around it, and so when you try to like put artificial scarcity, and that's all an NFT is, it's a mechanism for introducing artificial scarcity. It falls flat, and I think that's what's happened here.
Yeah, agreed. I have a feeling that foundation is crumbling to a certain degree, at least for certain types of NFTs. It'll be interesting to see how this ripple effect happens along the way. Owen Thomas, really appreciate you taking a little bit of a supersized portion of time this morning to chat with us about these topics. And Owen, of course, writes for protocol.com, so you can find all of his work there. If people want to follow you online, where can they find you?
I'm at Owen Thomas on Twitter, and I have not turned any of my tweets into an NFT
yet. Exactly. Right on. Thank you so much, Owen. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, Jason.
All right. Thanks again to Owen Thomas for joining us today. All right. Coming up, we're going to talk a little bit about Mikah's story of the week. It has to do with CNN Plus.
All right. So my story of the week this week is this is an opportunity to have kind of a bigger conversation because this is about CNN Plus, which is CNN's own take on having kind of a streaming service all its own. CNN Plus is, I think it's $5.99 a month or $60 annually, $59.99, and this was the idea that CNN could offer a streaming news service that folks would subscribe to directly. And so they brought in some different people, including Chris Wallace from Fox News and Casey Hunt from NBC News, to offer this kind of premium news streaming service, because everybody loves to have the news streamed directly into their ears and their eyes, right?
Everybody's got to have one.
Yes, and everybody has to have a Plus. TWiT Plus? Heard of it?
We do too, yeah.
However, what's fascinating about this, according to CNBC, who spoke to people familiar with the matter, in the 2 weeks since it has launched, there are fewer than 10,000 people subscribed to CNN Plus. Or I should say who are using it. So
daily active
users is still fewer than 10,000.
That's not a lot at all. For a brand like CNN.
Disney Plus had so many subscribers within moments of it launching, and actually before that, because people were able to subscribe ahead of time. It's, ESPN Plus, which is a more fair comparison because instead of being entertainment, it's specifically sports and sports news. 21.3 million subscribers. Peacock that's NBC's own thing, has 24.5 million monthly active users. And let's see, what was the other one? I think they talked about Disney Plus as well. All of these other streaming media services seem to be doing pretty well, but nobody's really interested in, as it stands, or not many people as it stands seem to be interested in having a streaming news service. And my question, my kind of thought about this is, so I used to be, like I suppose a less focused journalist, meaning I was not just a consumer technology journalist, but was a journalist who covered all sorts of things and lived and breathed in the newsroom where I constantly had to have news coming at me all the time. And so I remember after leaving that life, making the conscious decision to take a break from always having the news streaming into me and knowing what all is going on and feeling okay with that. But I think about people in general with the pandemic and with everything else that has happened. And especially here in the United States, where even before the pandemic, there were news story after news story after news story about horrible things happening for different reasons. And how folks felt themselves in our more connected than ever world we're living in, folks found themselves needing to kind of take a break from that. So I'm not surprised that the cable news network, CNN, in its original form, basically CNN was created to be a 24-hour news network so that folks could tune in. And it was like the first of its kind. There's this really great story about CNN starting, and I remember watching it. It was awesome, especially at the time as a bright-eyed, starry-eyed journalist. But these days, not only are there so many places to get the news that you want to get, but also I find that people are, really trying to take a break from that. So I personally am not surprised that there aren't that many daily active users, but I'm curious about you, Jason, if you are a person who seeks out news or lets it come to you in the different ways that you browse the internet.
I mean, it depends on the kind of news, right? Like, obviously, we do what we do for a living here. Yeah. So there's a certain requirement, a certain need to be tuned into aspects of the news. And a lot of that is technology news. Some things are, are tangential or, kind of touch on that, but aren't specific to technology. So, yeah, I seek that out because I have to in order to create the shows that I do and to just be informed and to know that, if I'm ever on this network, I'm talking about something that I actually have either opinion about or some knowledge about or some interest about or some sort of connection or recollection of it, recognition of it. News outside of that, like I don't ever watch TV news. I've certainly had the times in my life when I had cable and would turn on CNN or whatever to see what's going on and everything. Honestly, that's like early 2000s for me. That's like early 2000s that I remember actually carrying. But that was also the time of 9/11, and there was a lot of stuff happening worldwide, and that was the way that that was probably the primary way that I stayed up on what was going on, was through cable news. But I don't have that need as much anymore. And in fact, I've kind of hit a point in recent years where I realize the more I like prioritize needing to know all the things that are happening in the world because I need to be informed and I don't want to, have my head in the sand, blah, blah, the unhappier I am. And so I kind of hit a point where I was like, you know what? Like I have to take a step back from general news consumption because like you said, most of the time it's not good. Right. And like, it's not that I don't want to know that there is bad in the world, but I know that my tendency is to be so consumed by that that it pulls me in, and it's just unhealthy for me. Yeah, I'm not happy. My life is not fulfilling at that point, and I'm not doing anyone else any good when I do that.
Exactly.
Neither am I doing myself any good. So, like, I'm not at all interested in CNN Plus membership, subscription. I suppose I'm not surprised from that perspective, but also from the perspective of, like, when I think of round the clock news, cable news, round the clock, I feel like so much of it is already finding filler talking heads to fill an hour over here and hour, all talking about the same damn thing. Yep. And so then when I think of like CNN Plus, now we've got original shows with these pundits. I'm like, well, how is that any different? Like, I mean, maybe you like Wallace and maybe that's enough of a draw, but it's not enough of a draw for $6 a month to like follow one pundit.
Especially when you've got all the other streaming services that you have to subscribe to these days. You know what I mean? If you're, there's so many different companies that have pivoted to that model that you can only get so much. And, everybody wants to launch their Plus, but the problem is at some point people are going to reach the amount of plus
saturation.
The saturation point for the Plus that they can do. And I think in that way, you kind of, in some ways, already needed to have done it. But it's interesting. So it was fewer than 10,000 using CNN Plus. According to the CNBC article, CNN's cable network itself did face some drop in viewership, but still sees 773,000 viewers a day. So an average of 773,000 viewers a day versus monthly active users being fewer than 10,000 for CNN Plus. So this is one of those things where, well, I'm sure that they'll be keeping an eye on it, seeing where it goes. But I also found it fascinating that the company itself is kind of being a little bit not shady, because that's not the right word, but sort of not being forthright about things. I'll quote, I think one of the people, let's see, ex-Warner Media CEO Jason Kilar decided to push ahead with CNN Plus's launch 2 weeks before merging the company with Discovery. Kilar actually left the company last week, and when he did an interview with CNBC, he said, "It's ahead of my expectations in terms of where the subscribers are, the engagement, the receptiveness that we're getting in terms of people's response to the journalists of CNN Plus. I couldn't be more proud of that team." And that's an interesting thing to say at less than 10,000 or fewer than 10,000 active monthly users. So
fake it till you make it.
I guess that is what you got to do.
I mean, in his position, with a brand new service launching, maybe it's just like, put on the smiley face and see how we get through. And then at a certain point, he might have to turn that. 5
people signed up today, and I'm very happy about it.
Turn that into a frown. I mean, what also occurs to me as far as CNN is concerned is like there are properties, cable networks or TV network properties that I understand a streaming service around. CNN seems so very specific to one type of thing.
Yes.
It makes more sense to me for CNN Plus to be, it's kind of like what Disney did. Disney with Disney Plus. They don't just have Disney. They also have Marvel. They also have, they have Discovery, right?
Yeah.
They have a few different, is it Discovery or is it
no, it's not Discovery.
It's not Discovery. It's on the tip of my tongue. But
like the animal one, is that what you're talking about? But
they've got a lot of like, kid-friendly documentaries and everything. Someone in chat's going to throw it out and we'll be like, yes, exactly. But anyways, Disney did that where, Disney.
Geo.
What's that?
Nat Geo.
That's right. National Geographic. Disney very well could have released a streaming service with nothing but Disney on it, right? But they broadened out the offering a lot more in different directions that increases the value of that one service. And that's really great. Like that works really well. CNN is not a Disney. Like it's like a single cable news property, and $5.99 is a lot to pay for just that.
Especially if you were already paying your cable provider for to get CNN as
and you're not even getting live streaming news.
Right.
Like I think you're getting like 12 hours. I think someone said a week or something. 12 hours of live anything.
I don't get it.
It doesn't make sense. But I mean, they're owned by Warner Brothers. They're owned by Discovery, right? So those are all like maybe Warner Brothers has a Warner Brothers Plus, or I don't know, maybe they already do. But a Warner Brothers Plus that has the movie stuff, that has the TV stuff, and also happens to have the news stuff, and charge a little bit more for that, and maybe the value is better that way.
Yeah.
If it's part of something else, which keeps them locked into the cable news thing or the cable subscription thing, which, they're part of a large catalog of other things and can't stand on their own. And maybe they don't like that so much, but I'm sorry. That's the reality. That's just the way it is.
That's just the way it is.
Some things will never change, CNN. That's just the way it is. Okay. Anyways, now I got that rolling in my head.
Earworm.
All right, we've reached the end of this episode of Tech News Weekly. We record this show every Thursday, so go to twit.tv/TNW, and that is our show page on the web where you can subscribe to audio, video, jump out to YouTube. It's all there, twit.tv/TNW.
And if you'd like to get all of our shows ad-free, we've got a way for you to do that. You can check out Club Twit at twit.tv/ClubTwit. For $7 a month, you get access to every single Twitch show with no ads and unlike CNN Plus, you also get access to some extra special cool things like the TWiT Plus feed that has content you won't find anywhere else, including AMAs with lots of cool people. Paul Thurrott of Windows Weekly recently, as well as the web engineer here at TWiT, Patrick Delahanty, and loads of other cool things, and access to the members-only Discord server. That's the place where you can go and chat with your fellow Club TWiT members and hang out with us as well. Hosts often in the chat and having conversations along with everybody else. twit.tv/clubtwit for all that good stuff. And we've been talking about some new things to bring to that space. So I'm not saying anything yet, but it's very exciting what we are continuing to work on. Some new shows, some new ideas. So it's a good time to join the club, folks. And we heard that some folks wanted to support their some specific shows directly and not worry about all the rest of the stuff the Club TWiT has to offer. So there is a way to do that. If you use Apple Podcasts, head into Apple Podcasts, look up Tech News Weekly, find the audio version of the feed, and you'll see a button you can tap to subscribe for $2.99 a month. In doing so, you will get an ad-free version of the audio feed right there in your Apple Podcasts app. If you would like to follow me online, I'm at Mikah Sargent on many a social media network, or you can head to chihuahua.coffee. That's CHIHUA.coffee, where I've got links to the places I'm most active online. And of course, check me out on Saturdays with Leo Laporte for The Tech Guy, a radio show where we answer your questions from the U.S. and around the world. And on Tuesdays for iOS Today with Rosemary Orchard, where we talk all things iOS, tvOS, HomePod OS. It's all the OSs that Apple has on offer. Jason Howell, what about you?
Right on. Well, you can find me on Twitter at Jason Howell. And do all about Android on every Tuesday evening, twit.tv/AAA. And that's really about it. Just keep myself busy producing for Leo as well on some of his shows. So check those out as well. Big thanks to our sneezing John Ashley over there. Big thanks to Burke for helping behind the scenes. And thanks to you for watching and listening each and every week. We couldn't do this without you. And we will see you next time on Tech News Weekly. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bow.
Hey, I'm Rod Pyle, editor of Ad Astra Magazine, and each week I'm joined by Tarek Malik, the editor-in-chief over at Space.com, in our new This Week in Space podcast. Every Friday, Tarek and I take a deep dive into the stories that define the new space age. What's NASA up to? When will Americans once again set foot on the moon? And how about those samples from the Perseverance rover? When are those coming home? What the heck has Elon Musk done now? In addition to all the latest and greatest in space exploration, we'll take an occasional look at bits of spaceflight history that you probably never heard of, and all with an eye towards having a good time along the way. Check us out on your favorite podcatcher.